Welcome. I am N.S. Lavanya, Assistant Professor, Department of English, KCS Kasinadar College of Arts and Science. Let's look at the summary of Ant and the Grasshopper written by Somerset Maugham, which is a part of the syllabus Foundation English for second years prescribed by University of Madras. Somerset Maugham. As a great short story writer of the 19th century of English literature, he enjoyed tremendous popularity during his long literary career. In his long literary life, he wrote a great number of literary pieces in different forms. Among them, short stories are remarkable works and bear testimony to his artistic capacity. He is regarded as a master of short story. Of the stories, The Ant and the Grasshopper deserves special mention in this regard. Maugham has presented two interesting characters in this story. Maugham's story bases itself on the well-known fable of La Fontaine of the same title. The exposition presents a brief summary of the fable, followed by the narrator's expression of bias against the ant in La Fontaine's story. Since in the exposition, the narrator uses the fable to introduce his story of the Ramsay brothers, the reader's expectations from the development of the plot are already determined to a certain extent. The complication begins with the narrator meeting Judge Ramsay in the restaurant. From here onwards, the plot takes the form of recapitulation, where the reader is presented with a comprehensive account of the lives of the two Ramsay brothers, George and Tom, which are studies in contrast. As this part of the plot unfolds, the reader is able to match the characters of George and Tom to those of the ant and the grasshopper respectively. The narrator suspects from George's behavior in the restaurant that Tom has committed the worst of his misdeeds and wonders if he has gone to prison. The resolution, however, ends on a note of surprise for the narrator and possibly the reader as well, as George's anger is shown to the result of in the workhouse as George had uncharitably hoped for. Thereby, the plot maintains the element of suspense, despite having disclosed a blueprint at the outset. What could have prepared the reader for this ending is the narrator's personal bias against the ant that he reveals in the introduction, but the reader's realization is likely to come only from hindsight. Suspense is also produced by the discontinuous or interrupted temporal flow. For instance, the narrator meets an angry George in the restaurant, but the reader, along with the narrator, does not find out why George in the restaurant, but the reader, along with the narrator, is angry till the recapitulation in flashback mode is completed. When the story opens, we are introduced to two main characters as referring to them as George and Tom. The characters are introduced after a short introduction about the story of the ant and the grasshopper. In this fable, we learn that the ant in the story is much like the character of George. The ant begins working away throughout the summer, collecting his food and building his shelter in order to prepare for the upcoming winter. But the grasshopper, on the other hand, enjoys his summer months by sitting on a blade of grass singing to the sun. The characteristics of the grasshopper are also seen through the character of Tom. George is considered hardworking, decent, respectable and straightforward, whereas Tom is portrayed as an idle, worthless, dissolute and dishonorable rogue. We cannot help but feel drawn to sympathize with George's character because throughout the story, George is seen to be the individual that has worked for everything he has. We see evidence of this when the narrator states, "Poor George, only a year older than a fortnight's holiday, in the year for a quarter of a century. The author describes him. He was in his office every morning at 9:30 and never left it till 6. He was honest, industrious, and worthy. He made a point of saving a third of his income, and his plan was to retire at 55 to a little house in the country. Mom uses this character to portray the preferred life that we as humans try to live each day. By going to work and supporting a family, we are much like the ant in the story, living each day in order to prepare ourselves for the future. Within the story, Mom created Tom's character to portray the characteristics of the grasshopper. He stopped working and wanted to enjoy himself. He had little money and he spent 2 happy years in the valleys. However, Tom is engaged to an old woman who is old enough to be his mother. The lady dies suddenly, from whom he inherits £500,000. Referring to this incident, Ramsay feels as though there has been an injustice done. As the grasshopper made no provisions for the winter, Tom too made no provisions for his future. But in real life, Tom enjoys life better than his brother and well settled in life. When George is sharing about the new fortune of his brother, the narrator laughs heartily. His reaction to Tom's success in life mirrors the attitude of the society also. In modern times, the society does not care for the means of someone's success. This story records the truth that all those who work hard do not gain success. Though this story presents the darker side of life, it discloses the drastic changes that take place in the minds of the people regarding life. Thus the end. Thanks for watching. We meet again in the next video with another interesting topic.